We are live and we are sipping on a boomachino right here, baby. Welcome to the Boom Breakdown. We're doing a Boom recap for UFC 239. And the first thing I have to say is crack the coconut. Crack the coconut. That was the highlight of all corner advices in the history of the UFC. Crack the coconut. And yes, we are going head to head with the Ariel Helwani MMA show because I'm just that confident that everyone's gonna flood over to my channel and watch the Boom recap for UFC 239. Um, any of you guys, if you have any fan questions, you can leave it in the chat below. I'll try to get to as many as possible. Um, what a great card that was, man. Realistically, there was only a couple of fights that were lackluster. You know, the Claudia Gadelia Randa Marcos fight was a little lackluster, but I thought Claudia showed a more, patient skill set overall, having moved to work with Coach Mark Henry over there in New Jersey. She wasn't the same brawling style as usual. She was a little bit more calculated and more game plan oriented, which could be great for her career, but it just wasn't the most exciting fight. So I think people were hating on that a little bit. But man, we had some good knockouts on the card, and we had a close main event with John Jones and Santos. We'll start there. I honestly gave the fight to Santos. I thought that he won the first and second and fifth rounds. I thought John Jones took the third and fourth, but just such a close fight, hard to score. I really would like to go back and watch it again and see how I score it after, without any commentary and just kind of watch the fight a little closer, not so much as a fan, but more as an analyst and as a judge's perspective. Um, but watching it live, I gave the edge to Santos. I actually thought that he did more damage with his shots. Yeah, his knee was hurt in the fight, but that was almost to his own doing. It was the back knee. John Jones does like to throw that jab kick to the front knee, but I think Santos injured his own knee twisting, trying to throw kicks or whatnot. But yeah, he was backing up for the majority of the fight. John Jones was coming forward, but I thought Santos was landing the more devastating shots, the more output and the more power. And he knocked Jones's mouthpiece out. He definitely had his respect. I thought Jones fought smarter, more cautious than ever before. Really, maybe kind of hints to like the OSP fight, similar style fight. But I thought Santos was more aggressive. To be honest, I thought he hit him with harder shots. But nonetheless, they give John Jones the victory by split decision. Actually, I think it was his first fight ever that he lost a round on the judges' scorecard. So that was history right there as far as Jones title fights goes. But he gets the decision nonetheless, and I'm wondering who they're going to put him up against next. It's an interesting perspective that Jones has. He doesn't want to move up to heavyweight and try to challenge DC for that title or become champ or make history there with himself and his legacy. His perspective is, you know what? There's new young blood coming up, and I'm just going to stay put and keep defending my title and keep breaking title defense records and take that route. And I think that's interesting for many different reasons. I think that it's a good thing to see a champion stay at his weight class and defend his title for the division, for the sport, for the guys who are earning their spot at number one contendership. But, you know, for challenging yourself and seeing how good you really are, is John Jones doing that? Or is he kind of saying, you know what? I'm getting paid. I'm doing what I got to do to, retain my title. And I'm going to fight the next guys coming up, these young lions that are hungry, that are coming up to challenge me for my title. I think that John Jones knows that there's not much to offer for these guys coming up right now in the light heavyweight division. I think he's leaps and bounds above these guys. I think that these guys have a lot of potential, and they are young, hungry guys that are showing, new school MMA and very high level skill. But I think they're just a little bit below John Jones's level of, and he knows that, and he's gonna get as much money as much wins as possible before he gets out of the game, and that's kind of the name of the game here, right? Obviously, we have the Johnny Walkers, the Dominic Reyeses, and we'll see who they're going to put John Jones next. I really don't know if there's a clear-cut guy. Jan Blachowicz, big KO victory over Luke Rockhold with that devastating left hook, which he said he manifested. He's a guy that could potentially come up. I don't think he can give John Jones anything really. Similar type of style that John Jones just faced. A guy with power that can throw a heavy hook, decent ground game, but John Jones is going to be able to out-wrestle Jan Blachowicz and outstrike Jan Blachowicz if he fights him. And John Jones tends to go in there and he likes to fight guys at their best, at their best game. So, Thiago Santos was a high-level, Muay Thai guy, and John Jones struck with him, stood there, went toe-to-toe with him. Outsmarted him at some points in the fight, but I just thought Santos edged it out. But yeah, where does Luke Rockhold go from here? That's a question that arose after the fight. He's got a modeling career. He can make money outside the cage. He's coming off a couple of bad knockouts, with the Yoel Romero knockout, with the Bisping knockout, and now Jan Blachowicz. You don't want to take too many of those knockouts. And I believe he broke his jaw in this fight, and that's the second time he's broke his jaw in not too long of time. So, these are things that you got to start taking into consideration. He did look really big, really fit for the weight class. Who's to say, if that adage of muscle played a role? I don't think so, but I do think that Rockhold throws a lot of power in his shots. Whereas he could be setting up a little bit more, picking his shots and volume, and then leading himself into those power shots. But he just one-offs, power kicks, left kicks, and over in that first round, he was really just trying to hurt Jan, and it wasn't really doing the job. And I think he starts to slow down, and that's where he starts to have some less success in the fight. Jan was able to notice that and take advantage of that and land that big left hook. I don't know, man. You can't tell a guy to retire, but, get out while you can, I guess. If you can make money elsewhere, let's be safe. You've been knocked out 3 times now, 2 broken jaws. It's just not looking good. You're going to be fighting bigger guys in light heavyweight division with more power, so you got to deal with that when you come up a weight class. A lot of people say speed kills, which could be a thing if you move up a weight class, but also if you're getting caught by guys that feel different than what you were feeling in a lighter division, that could play a role too. Hi, Matthew Kelleher. My dad has tuned into the live feed. We got to keep the sniffles down to an all-time low, and we have to keep my language up to par and keep it professional. So no more stutters, no more sniffles, no more curses. What do we got in the background? Anything? No more paraphernalia. You know the deal. Also, Amanda Nunes knocking out Holly Holm with her signature move. Holly Holm with the left with the head kick KOs, and now Nunes does the same to her. Nunes is slowly becoming, quickly becoming the best ever female fighter in MMA. And, she knocked out Cyborg. Now she knocked out Holly Holm. She knocked out Ronda Rousey. She submitted she knocked out Miesha Tate too. Yeah, she's knocking out everybody. So Nunes is just getting better and better as she gets older, which is cool to see. And I really don't know who could challenge her. I mean, Shevchenko is someone who is capable of giving her somewhat of a competition, but we've seen that fight already. Definitely the only person I could see giving her somewhat of a challenge right now. I mean, you could go the Cyborg rematch route, which Dana White says, oh, we'll try to make that fight if Cyborg really wants it, but I don't think she does. But then you hear Cyborg say, I do want that fight. So I don't know what's going on with that. Politics all over the joint. But that was a quick fight. That was a really heated exchange early on in that fight where Cyborg got caught by Nunez, and I would like to see that fight again just to see if we see a different fight. I think it'll go a little bit longer. I think Cyborg will fight a little bit smarter, but maybe Shevchenko comes back up and fights her for the title. We could see that again. There's not much else out there. I mean, Kat Zingano has beat Nunez in the past, I believe. But she hasn't looked great as of late, where it looks like she would be the next person. So I don't know what's going to happen next, but Nunez looks amazing. Holly Holm, another person who Dana White's talking about retirement. And I don't know if she really should do that yet. Who knows? I mean, she's coming off a couple losses. Knockout losses are always something where you have to consider what's next. But we'll see what happens with Holly Holm. We'll see what happens with Nunez, who they match her up with next. Excited to see that. She's just nobody to mess with right now in the women's division. She hits really hard, and it's clear that when she hits these girls, like they're just like, I don't want anything to do with this. Because, I saw a moment in the fight where she connected with her right hand on Holly, and the next feint that she threw, Holly kind of was like flustered, like, whoa, like, I don't want to get caught again with that. And I think that just throws these girls off with the power that Nunez has. And, man, shout out to Miz. And then you got Jorge Masvidal, and, Colby Covington, and a lot of these guys, Horiguchi, a lot of these top guys coming out of ATT. Mike Brown's doing a great job. Let's move on to the Jorge Masvidal knockout against Ben Askren. I saw Jorge winning this fight. I did not see it happening like that. But, man, what a knockout. That Askren was stiff out cold for a while. And we all knew Askren was going to try to take the fight to the ground. So it wasn't really a stupid strategy, but it was a wild strategy. And it was crazy because you see in the beginning of the fight, Jorge actually wipes both of his knees down almost to say, like, listen, I'm drying these bad boys off because I'm going to jump with one of them early on. And then he runs at him, jumps the flying knee, connects flush on the side of the head, and Askren's out, man. Fastest knockout in UFC history. That was brutal stuff. And Jorge is just coming in his own, man. The guy's had ups and downs in his career. He's had, challenging fights with guys who are not the best guys in the world, but solid fighters. And now he's just turned a page where he's this guy that's a killer that's about to challenge for a world title at welterweight. He's fought at lightweight and he's had some ups, some downs there, and now he's looking better than ever at welterweight. Not the biggest welterweight, but nonetheless very seasoned veteran coming from backyard fights where he's obviously fighting guys that he has no idea what's about to happen. He talked about that leading up to this fight, how fighting in the UFC is just fun for him. He doesn't really view it the same. He used to fight people where there was, he didn't know if someone had a knife, had a gun. Crazy backyard fights is a lot more serious than stepping into the cage as a sport. So for him, he's just cool, calm, relaxed in there, and he shows it. He's able to just let go of his skills. He's well-rounded. He's tricky. He's he's hard to predict in there. He switches stances. And I said before this fight, like, yeah, Robbie Lawler, that fight with Ben Askren is different because Lawler just plants his feet and throws big power. And Masvidal is a trickier fighter, and he's gonna come with some more unorthodox stuff and bring some different movement to the table and different angles with his strikes. More of a volume striker, if anything, but man, he comes out hot with the flying knee in this fight, and I was concerned for Askren. He was out for a while, and I was like, man, I hope this guy's okay. He seems to be all right. All his tests came back negative, Dana White says, and he was released from the hospital, which was good to hear. He posted a tweet, well, that sucks. So he's obviously still got his his spirits with him, and I don't know what he's gonna do next, man. That's a type of knockout where it's like, man, where do you go from here? You gotta change up something in your game. You can't be too obvious with just knowing that you're just going to come in and try to bum rush them and shoot takedowns. It's too obvious. You got to kind of well round out your skill set and try to set up your takedowns different. At least give somewhat of a threat with striking that it's not so obvious what you're going to do. But Jorge knew that. It was crazy. They released a video too with him training at the PI like 48 hours before the fight, practicing that same exact flying knee, and then he lands it flush. Like, that's just unheard of. That was crazy. Jorge should be next. Him and Colby Covington are friends. They've trained together. They've come up together, and now they're in a predicament where they might have to fight each other, which they both said they're down to do for the right money. So we may see that fight. Who knows what happens next? Either Colby's going to get the shot or Jorge's going to get the shot. But Colby has to get through Robbie Lawler next. And Usman's just coming off surgery, so we don't know how long he's going to be out. And there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the division, so you never know. We might even see Jorge fight Colby for an interim title fight before we see Usman defend his title. Diego Sanchez, Michael Chiesa. Obviously, Michael Chiesa dominated the fight in the grappling area. Diego was able to survive. Nobody submitted him in his career, so not an easy guy to submit. But Chiesa looked like twice the guy's size. He dominated him with the grappling. He almost had a couple of opportunities to get a submission, but Diego's just slick down there, able to slide out. But the big storyline is Diego's corner. He brought that one cornerman out, this new guy. He left Jackson Wink, and this guy's got, his movement coach, his, everything coach, pretty much, he was saying. He only brings the one cornerman out, and the guy's yelling, "Crack the coconut," which I made a joke about earlier, which I thought was hilarious. I was laughing about that whole situation. Now, I understand crack the coconut means, elbow the head or whatnot from the bottom. And, some corners have code words and that works for their fighters, but this guy doesn't have the resume, and this guy doesn't have the MMA skills and coaching, resume to be in there, at a high level coaching guys in the UFC. I mean, Diego's crazy enough where he doesn't really need coaching to know how to fight these days. But, I thought his interview with Ariel Helwani was captivating stuff. I thought that he was actually showing that, his mind was in the right spot, that Diego is a wild, crazy guy, and he needs to be outside the box, and he needs to be crazy and in his own ways to fight the way that he needs to fight and get inside and be scrappy and do his thing. I thought that was a good thing, even though some people were like, man, I don't know what's going on with this guy. He sounds crazy. He's going through a divorce, this and that. I actually thought we were going to see a solid Diego in there based off that interview, but, let's give credit to Michael Chiesa. He out-grappled him. He out-positioned him. He was way bigger than him. Diego really didn't get any strikes off. He didn't let go of his hands much, which I thought was a big, factor in the fight. I mean, Chiesa got really comfortable. He is primarily a grappler, and he was able to just dominate the positions and get comfortable enough to not really worry in the fight much, although he did get his oil checked, he said. So that was probably the most worrisome thing there was in the fight. But yeah, so Michael Chiesa is looking to, move further and further along. Diego does. He's a Hall of Famer, Well, at least he has the Hall of Fame fight with Clay Guida. But yeah, where it's like he can retire, he can say, "I'm done," but he obviously isn't, getting brutally finished as of late. He's getting dominated by guys that are coming up still, and Diego's been in the game for so long that I don't think he needs to do any more to show anything. The fans love him. He's done enough. He's the Ultimate Fighter guy from season 1. If he retires, he had a great career. Moving on, Arnold Allen had a good victory over Gilbert Melendez. Gilbert Melendez, another guy that's been in the game for so long. young lions, and I wouldn't mind seeing him get out of the game too. He didn't fight a terrible fight, but he just seems like he's lacking against these young guys that are coming up that are hungry to get victories. And Arnold Allen had a good pressure game, landed more strikes, was able to shut down Gilbert Melendez and get the victory. So we'll see. Arnold Allen's like 6-0 in the featherweight division. He's unranked. It's crazy, man. Like, I know these rankings are crazy, but let's give Arnold Allen a number, and let's at least give him like a top fight next against someone in the top 15, top 10. I think he deserves it. Marlon Vera comes out of nowhere with a victory against Nohalan Hernandez. Hernandez was having some early success. Marlon Vera had him in a couple of submission opportunities, but Hernandez escapes and starts landing some good ground and pound. And then out of nowhere, it seems like Marlon Vera needs to get hit, needs to kind of like face some adversity in these fights to wake up and let go of his killer instinct. All of a sudden he comes out of nowhere like, you know what, fuck this. I'm going to go at this guy. He comes out with a flying knee, I believe the second round, and hurts Hernandez, and then finishes him up on the ground. With a submission, takes his back, gets the hooks in, quick choke. Hernandez was kind of on his way out already before the choke was sunk in. But he hurt him with that flying knee, and he was just on top of him after that. And it was weird because, like, early on in the fight, you don't see that same killer in him. And then all of a sudden, he's like, you know what? Some switch just happens where he's like, I want to win. I'm ready to let go. Let's go get this. And big win for Marlon Vera. I believe he's on like a 3 or 4 fight win streak now, after losing to Lineker, and he's doing things, not the name he wanted to fight, probably wanted a little bit bigger of a name, but I think he'll get a top 15 guy next. Maybe they'll try to make that fight with what's his name, the English guy, Nathaniel Wood. Yeah, Nathaniel Wood. I think that would be a good fight to see next. Wouldn't mind seeing that. Song Yadong gets a crazy knockout with that right hand over Alejandro Perez, who has never been knocked out. Uriah Faber was preaching about Song Yadong, how good he is, looked in the gym. Obviously, Alpha Male's a good fit for him. And we haven't seen his grappling yet, but they've said a lot of good things about his grappling. So I look forward to see him make waves in the division, see him get a tougher test his next fight out. Although Alejandro Perez I think he was ranked in the top 15. So definitely a big KO victory, man. And Alejandro Perez threw that like inside leg kick, and Song Yadong was like, it looked like he was too far out to land that punch, but he threw it like long with that long overhand right, perfect on the chin, man. Sent him back. Brutal knockout. Great victory for him. We'll see what's next for him. He's still fairly new in the division, so I don't know if they'll give him, another named guy or just kind of move him along slow. We'll see what they do next with him. Any other notable big wins on the card? Let's see. Anything we want to touch up on? Edmund Shabazian, that's a young hot prospect right there. Takes out Jack Marshman. I didn't think he was going to get the job done that easy, but this guy's running through guys, so I'm sure he's going to get a tougher task next. Youngest guy. He wants to be the youngest champion ever. I believe he's 21 years old, man. This guy's 10-0, 21 years old, looking great in the UFC. And we'll see who they give him next in the middleweight division. Let's get to some fan questions, and then we'll get out of here. Quick recap for you. Of course, the brother, Keith Kelleher, is wondering, are you going to start calling people out to spark something since you haven't gotten a fight yet? I mean, yeah, you can start calling out names, but it's kind of been known that on Twitter these days, it's not going to get you the fight. The best way to get fights is to get a win and get on the mic right after a win and then call somebody out. That's really how you get those fights. As of right now, coming off an injury, I'm back 100% last month and a half, 2 months, been feeling better. Training hard. He in shape. Look at this thing. You kidding me? Chael Sonnen, what? That's bantamweight biceps right there. He's ready to go. I'm in shape. Training hard twice a day. Hopefully we get in there in August. I don't really care who. That's not really the focus. The focus is go in there and be the boom that I know I can be and just be a killer. You know what I mean? And just do what got me to the dance. What got me here in the first place is that fire, that hunger to want to be the best in the world. Forget everything in the past. The past is non-existent. The present is all you have, and it's time to get in there and get fucking nuts. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. So yeah, I don't care who. Doesn't matter. It's not really up to me. I'm not coming off a win. You know, when you come off a win, you have some momentum. You can kind of select who's next, who makes sense. But right now, anybody makes sense. I don't care who. It's just let's get in there in August so I can get back on that November 2nd card at MSG and get some real redemption here in New York. Boom. What else do we got? Man, I got to get some more fan questions. What's going on over here? We don't got enough fan questions. Yes, this is a Boomachino I'm sipping. Boom's finest special uh special roast. I'm just cracking the coconut, guys. Just cracking the coconut here. Let's see if we got any more questions. People are slacking. Slacking his shit. Oh, Brandon Schwab, my number one guy over here at Jesse Jess. Does Luke Rockhold keep trying his hand at the UFC, or should he try another promotion, perhaps Bellator or ONE FC? I don't know, man. I don't think it's looking good for him. You know, going to another promotion is probably not going to do much for him. I don't think the UFC will cut him. He's a big enough name where they'll give him more fights. I just don't know if he has it in him anymore to compete with these guys at the top echelon of the division. He moved up the weight class, tried to reinvigorate his career, and now he loses to Jan Blachowicz, who, you know, is a tough guy in the division, but hasn't really, you know, been a guy to challenge for a title yet. Luke Rockhold was talked as maybe a guy who could challenge John Jones as far as styles go, but now that's out of the question. So what's he going to do? He's got to win 2 or 3 fights now to get that chance to fight John Jones, and I don't think he's going to get any easier competition that he has. So it's tough to say where he's going to go next. The guy might retire, or he might have to fight his way all the way back up the division, which he needs to reassess himself and see what he wants to do. If he wants to fight, he wants to fight, but he's got to fight perhaps somebody who is not going to knock his head off his shoulders next. So I don't know what they're going to do next with him. But that's that. You know, I'm trying to break down each card with the Boom breakdowns. I usually do a Boom breakdown prior, and then I do a Boom recap show after. If anybody wants to collaborate, let me know. I also want to start a new show coming up. I'm working on that, so we'll see what happens with that. I'm building the resume. We got to send it in, but who wants to work for anybody else? I want to be my own boss. So Boom Productions coming soon. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter at BrianBoom135. Working on the music. 3-piece and a soda's out. Jorge Masvidal retweeted it. Go check it out. And we'll be back for the next card. All right, guys? Boom.